Hello, vinyl community. This is Tommy in North Carolina. Glad to be with you again, and we've got a lot of ground to cover in this video, so I'm going to try to make this intro as quick as I can. My friend Sean, who I've talked about before, came up from New Orleans. Hi, Sean. He's gone back south again for the winter. Not quite winter, but he comes up once a year and spends some time, and we do what I've finally started calling a record crawl, for lack of a better description. And we basically spend a couple of days and go to as many stores as we can and try to buy as many records as we want. Try to. We don't have unlimited budgets, unfortunately, so we can't buy everything we want and everything we see. But we've found some really cool stuff on this trip, so I'm going to share with you guys what I found on this trip and try to give an overall overview of the entire story and what I found at each store. So Sean got here on Thursday afternoon, and the first thing we did, we grabbed a bite to eat and kind of laid out a plan for what we were going to do. And so we took a trip to Asheville to a store called Haywood Comics. They've got not a large selection of used records, but quite a few, and they have new records as well. But we were kind of just going in there to just kind of get things rolling, and not really a plan to go. And so anything we got there was going to be a complete and total surprise. I didn't really know what to expect. So we got in there and started flipping through the bins, and this was kind of the story of the next couple of days. And I found a record that I've been looking for quite a while, and just happened to get to it first. They had 3 copies of this in store. It's a common record. It's Get the Knack by The Knack. And what made this particular one so special is that this was one of the ones that was pressed by the mastering engineer Wally Trogett on both sides. It's the double Wally, the elusive double Wally for me. This was a grail find for me because I love this album, but I never bought it because I kept thinking I'm holding out for the double Wally, and I finally got my hands on one. We spun it Thursday night, and it was very cool because it was a good find. And so that was a sign of good things to come for the rest of the weekend. I felt like if I can run into that right off the bat at a store I didn't even plan to go to, I was going to be able to have some really good luck on this particular record crawl. So Friday morning we got up. This was yesterday. And so the plan was to go down to Greenville, South Carolina. Yesterday was the release day for this album, and some of you guys have it, and I got it myself. Jason Isbell and the 400 unit. It's Isbell, not Isbell. It's Isbell. Jason Isbell and the 400 unit's new album, The Nashville Sound. This was the independent record store edition with the songbook included. My songbook was not autographed. I think some of them were, and I was a little bummed to find out later, but that's fine. So I did pick up the album. I listened to it a little earlier, and it is absolutely great, and glad to get it. So that was the whole purpose of going to Horizon Records in Greenville. It's a great shop. We usually have some good luck there. So there's a couple other things I picked up there. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. This is Marty Stuart's first album, self-titled. Really good copy. I'm a big fan of Marty Stuart. But before you think I'm all country, I also picked up this new mono copy of Giant Steps by John Coltrane. So really glad to get this. I didn't realize, I think they just came out yesterday. There's quite a few of these monos that came out. But we took a listen to it yesterday. It's a really quiet pressing. It sounded really good. This is a fantastic album, and I was happy to get my hands on that. And also as a bonus, this is just one I didn't have. This is Jason Isbell's first solo album, Sirens of the Ditch. And just because he had a copy in stock, I went ahead and grabbed it. So the next store that we went to was right around the corner from Horizon. I talked about it in my Record Store Day video, and it's a store that I wanted to spend some time in and was able to do so with Sean yesterday. It's called Cabin Floor Records. Some of you in the area have been there and have good things to say about it. He's got great stuff in that store, and you can spend a lot of money there. We probably could have blown our entire budget in that one store, which I'm kind of glad we didn't. And that's more on that later. But I did manage to pick up a George Harrison album. This is not one of the reissues. This is an original copy of Gone Troppo. Not a fantastic album by any means. This one was still sealed, and it was at a very cheap price. So I went in and picked it up and got it. Another one I found was this copy of Buddy Holly Lives, which I think is a late 70s album, Greatest Hits collection. It's a really clean copy in nice shape. So I was able to find that. And another one that I found relatively cheap, Elvis Costello and the Attractions, Goodbye Cruel World. This is a mid-80s album, not a fantastic album, but again, this kind of fills a hole in my collection. This is one that I needed, and really was just holding out for a nice copy, which is what I got. So that completed our trip to Cabin Floor. And so the next shop was right there in Greenville, a store called Pharmacy Records. I went there on Record Store Day. It's a relatively new store, but was glad to take Sean there for the first time and found some neat stuff. Pharmacy Records has, it's a small store, but they've got great prices, and he definitely is in the business to sell. And so you're not going to go in there and find overpriced used records. And if you're just looking to really begin a collection or build a collection, it's a great place to go because he's got a good selection of new and used records for really good prices. And so I highly recommend going in there, and you probably can find some good catalog titles in there. This is one I found. This is Keith Moon, Two Sides of the Moon. Keith Moon, the drummer for The Who. This is his solo album. This is still sealed. So I was really, really happy to find this. I probably won't open it just because. So it'll be preserved as long as I have it, probably. Another one I got was this import album of Buddy Holly and the Crickets Super Hits. I think this is from New Zealand. I'm not really familiar with it, but I think I was really happy to find some Buddy Holly on vinyl. I don't see a lot of it out there. And so this is another one. He had a really cheap price on it. So I figured, what the heck, I would go ahead and grab it. Another one I picked up there was Frank Zappa's Studio 10, a nice clean copy at a reasonable price. So I was glad to find it and glad to get it. You'll probably hear me be saying that a lot here. And the last thing I got at Pharmacy, funny enough, the last time I think on Record Store Day, I got a box top record. And so I found another one. This is Cry Like a Baby, the box tops, and it's in really nice shape. The jacket, it's not perfect, but it'll do. It's not falling apart. And so really, really cool to find box tops records because I don't find very many. So when we were in Pharmacy and we were having a chat, we were thinking about riding over to Spartanburg to a store that I'd only been to once and wasn't really sure what to find. So we were talking to the guy in Pharmacy, and he recommended a place in Seneca, South Carolina. Now, some of you may know this place and have been there. Seneca is right outside of Clemson, and the store is called Yesterdays, with a D-A-Z-E, Yesterdays, in a little strip mall there next to a couple of thrift stores. And we decided, we were driving to Spartanburg, let's go the other way and go to this place. And I am telling you, this guy had an impressive collection of rare vinyl, really good stuff. There's some grails in there. I can almost guarantee you, if you go in this guy's store, he will have something you're going to want. Be prepared to spend some money if you go in there. And we walked in and just our jaws dropped. We found some really nice records. It's again one of those things where I wish that my budget wasn't limited, because I could have really walked out of there and probably been divorced by now, because my wife would have not allowed me back in the house. But so I have to keep everything in check. But I did find a couple of things there. This is a German pressing or German import of Electric Light Orchestra, The Night the Light Went On in Long Beach. It's a live record from the early days. I've got this on CD, so I've heard it. It's not essential, but this was a nice kind of hole to fill in my ELO collection. So I'm going to be glad to plug this into that. And so the other thing I found there was some records that I don't see a lot in the wild, and I kind of just they're not very common. So that's why I kind of talked myself into getting these. The first is Harry Nilsson, Do It on Monday, which is one of the later 70s RCA albums. Not a big commercial success. Also, Nilsson Sandman. I'm just trying to fill up my Nilsson collection and try to find good copies. And the last one is Nilsson, That's the Way It Is. I've never seen this ever. This one was still sealed, so that was a bonus. So I got pretty much a brand new copy of this. It's a brand new original pressing. It's on the tan RCA label. So it's not sealed now, and this will be listened to and played and loved. So that took care of our day yesterday, and we were happy, and I think we both found things that we were really pleased to get our hands on. And so those were no exceptions. And so that leads us to today. We kind of was able to sleep in and get up and kind of get a later start. And we started the day kind of in the Asheville area. We stayed around here. And so the first stop we made was to my favorite local record store that I go to quite a bit, Harvest Records. And Harvest, usually if you go to their new arrival bin, you'll find some really nice stuff. And Harvest, sort of like Pharmacy, they price stuff to sell, and you can find really good prices on brand new and used vinyl. And they've got some oddball stuff in their used selection. It's not your typical just sort of stuff you see everywhere. And so I'm really always happy to go digging around in the bins at Harvest, and I always find some stuff. One of the things I found was this Marty Stuart. Funny enough, I've got a Marty Stuart record the day before. This is a newer record from 2012. It's called Nashville Volume 1, Tear the Woodpile Down. This is with his band, the Fabulous Superlatives. Just a really great band, and I'm sure this is a fantastic record, and I can't wait to hear it. The next one was one that Sean kind of said I have to have. He made me get it. This is The Ark by Chad and Jeremy, and they had a great price on this. And so he basically he didn't give me an option on this one. Sean handed it to me and said, you're getting this album, because he just felt like it's one of those things I needed to have. And so I may report later on how much I like it. I'm sure Sean and I have a lot of similar taste. So I'm sure that he will not let me down on that one, and I'll enjoy that album. This is another one, a Van Morrison, Beautiful Vision. It's an early 80s Warner Brothers album, so it has the old Turtles sticker on there. It was a really cheap price, and it's in good shape. Probably not the best Van Morrison album. That late 70s, early 80s stuff can be tedious, but I enjoy Van Morrison. And so I'm always glad to get my hands on it. So the next stop we made after Harvest is we went downtown, and there's a couple of shops very nearby on Lexington in downtown Asheville called Static Age Records and Voltage Records, and they're within walking distance, within a block of each other. We did find some neat stuff in Static Age, but our budgets were kind of getting limited. By the way, before we went to Harvest, I failed to mention this. Our day actually began at the Habitat for Humanity Restore in Asheville near Biltmore Village. That little store has it's not your typical thrift store. Record collecting, they actually have some well-curated records, and you can find some neat stuff in there. We didn't find anything today that just grabbed us that we needed to have. But I did, on the way out, I eyeballed a shelf that I did purchase, and I will be getting it in here soon. And so maybe in a future video, I'll show you guys my shelf that I bought. I was really glad to get that. I'm saying that a lot. Sorry, it's kind of the catchphrase here. So the next stop we made was Static Age and Voltage. Didn't really find anything that we just had to have at Static Age. There's some good stuff there, and it may be something I go back for later on. But like I said, time, budget, everything being limited, we were kind of running out of time and money. But we did go down to Voltage, and I found a copy of Sparks Propaganda. This is one that I didn't have. Sparks is a band that is just utter madness, and so not a lot of people like this band. Some people love them. They're interesting, and so it's always good to find original Sparks albums. They had a couple of others. One I already had in my collection, Indiscreet, and then they had a later pressing of Come On to My House, which, had it been a little cheaper, I might have grabbed it, but it's still there if anybody wants to go down there and get it. At least I think so. So then, with a little time on our hands, and just because it's one of my favorite places, out in Brevard, where I started my record store day, we rode out to Southern Comfort. I think that based on some things that I'm hearing, Southern Comfort is may or may not be around much longer. I don't know this for a fact, but I know that it is. They're limping along right now, and so I love this little store. I've made some good friends there, and am always happy to go there. And we didn't really find anything terribly essential there. But I was able to pick up Bob Dylan's Down in the Groove. Again, it's not a great album. I think most of you who are familiar with Bob Dylan's work, this is mid-'80s Bob. This album is pretty much one of the worst albums he's ever made. I'll say that. It does have Silvio on it, which is a decent song. But for the most part, this record it's not classic Bob Dylan. But it had a good price on it. It's in really good shape. So was just kind of filling holes in the collection. And as we were coming back into Hendersonville, there's a place here in Hendersonville called Ken's Hi-Fi Clinic. They're getting quite a nice selection of vinyl in there. And so we spent a little time in there. And just for fun, I picked up this little thing. I'd eyeballed it before. This is the picture disc of Paul McCartney's We All Stand Together from the early 80s, which was an animated short he did. I will probably never play this. It's just kind of a cute little thing to have. And so I don't know what I'll do with it. But those are the things that were picked up the last couple of days. All stuff that I'm really happy to get. Now I'm going to have to spend a lot of time listening. So if you would, like and subscribe, but also follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, Tommy Burton 75, and that's where I post a lot of the stuff I'm spinning. I've already listened to the Knack album. I've listened to the Jason Isbell and the John Coltrane, so those are going to get filed away finally. And when I get the new shelf in here in the next week or so and find out where I'm going to put it, I will be able to get the stuff that's off the floor. If you look at my record room tour previous video, there's stuff on the floor. I'll be able to finally get that stuff off the floor. And I've got plenty of shelving, but this was just too good to pass up. So I don't know if I'm going to put it behind me here and make some room there. There's going to have to be some adjusting in the room because it's pretty tight as it is. But this shelf is just going to really make a lot of headaches go away. So, and it'll give me plenty of room to get more records, which is probably not what I need, but I will, I'm not going to stop buying records. So anyway, thanks for watching. Comment below any questions or anything. Let me know. I try to answer any questions anyone has, and I look forward to seeing you guys again very, very soon.